Hello, welcome to our geomatics class. The last time we met, we looked at, in our lecture two, we looked at certain theories and principles that form the fundamental underlying of electromagnetic radiation. We saw electromagnetic radiation as a dualistic principle or phenomenon which is comprised of both wave theories and particle principles. And we saw how looking at these principles and trying to explore them could help us to understand how they are applied in geoinformatics and surveying. We saw that the wave theories of electromagnetic spectrum brings to view concepts like interference, concept like radiation, concept like uh, reflection, and then concept like wavelength and frequency of wave. And then we also saw that the particle theory of electromagnetic radiation brings us to understanding that electromagnetic radiation actually leads to the generation of energy, which we also saw as photon. Today, in our lecture three, we're going to look at electromagnetic spectrum. Electromagnetic spectrum presents the full range of the potential frequencies and energy of electromagnetic radiation. It is the ordered arrangement of electromagnetic radiation in an increasing frequency or decreasing wavelength, or decreasing frequency or increasing wavelength. For an object, the electromagnetic spectrum is an important catalog that shows the specific arrangement of electromagnetic radiation emitted or taken up by that object. In its simplest order, electromagnetic spectrum, or what I may call EMS, ranges from air waves used for modern radio and then extending to the gamma radiation at the short wavelength end, encompassing wavelength from thousands of kilometers to any fraction of the size of an atom. How are electromagnetic spectrum conceptualized? Three physical properties are essential in conceptualizing electromagnetic spectrum, and they are frequency, wavelength, and energy or photon. Now, if you remembered very well what we did in lecture two, when we looked at the dualistic nature of electromagnetic radiation, we saw that wave and particle theories or wave and particle principles undergird um, the whole workings of electromagnetic radiation. So we're now seeing it again coming together of wave and particle properties. So we have the frequency and wavelength being the wave properties, and then energy being the particle properties. So these three physical properties are essential in understanding and conceptualizing electromagnetic spectrum because in an increasing order of frequency, we can now arrange the component of the electromagnetic radiation in an order. And then in a decreasing order of frequency, we can also see how the component of electromagnetic spectrum or electromagnetic radiation can be arranged. Now, a snapshot of electromagnetic spectrum, we can see from here that this spectrum is made up of seven important components. From the radio wave, which has the highest wavelength and the shortest frequency, down to the gamma rays, which has the shortest wavelength and the highest frequency, and then traversing the infrared, the microwave, the visible light, and the ultraviolet. Now we're going to look at each of the components of the electromagnetic spectrum, starting with the radio waves. The radio waves are typically created by radio transmitters and can be gotten by radio recipients. They are electromagnetic waves with higher wavelengths, often greater than 1 meter, and lower frequencies, often less than 300 megahertz. Radio waves are used for transmission of data via modulation. Television, mobile phones, and wireless networking systems, as well as amateur radio, all use radio waves. The use of radio spectrum is generated by many governments or regulated by many governments through frequency allocation. Now, the whole discussion around radio waves gives us four important types of the radio waves, and they are The low to medium frequency range of the radio wave, which is made up of the extremely low frequency and very low frequency radio waves. And then we have the higher frequency radio waves, which is made up of the high frequency radio waves, the very high frequency, and the ultra high frequency radio waves. We also have the shortwave frequency ranges of the radio waves, which is which consists of the high frequency band. Then we have the highest frequency ranges of the radio wave, which is made up of the ultra high frequency radio wave and the extremely high frequency radio waves. Now, in that order of electromagnetic spectrum, we have the microwaves coming next, according to its range of frequency and wavelength. The microwaves occupy a place in the electromagnetic spectrum with frequency above the ordinary radio waves and below the infrared. They are electromagnetic waves with wavelength ranges from 1 millimeter to 1 meter and frequencies from 300 gigahertz to 300 megahertz. Microwaves are useful for communication, satellite communication, radio astronomy, navigation. In geoinformatics and surveying, we talk about the GNSS, the Global Navigation System, the GLONASS, and the Global Positioning System. We also talk about stereoscopy. And then the microwave, the simplest perception of the microwave, which we find in most of our homes, is the microwave pot, which we can use to heat our food, to boil pasta, and to prepare foods in an instant. Going further from the microwave, we have the infrared. The infrared radiation is within the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that extends from the long wavelength or red end of the visible light to the microwave range. Although the infrareds are invisible to the eye, they can be detected as a sensation of warmth on the skin. So you can see the diagram we have there, with the human arm around the phalanges, the wrist, and the ulna and radius. You can find that if the hand passes through the infrared, that's the picture you will find. Now the microwaves are useful for night vision, for thermography, and for hyperspectral imaging. We have the near infrared between which has a wavelength between 0.78 to 3 micrometer, the mid infrared which ranges from 3 to 50 micrometer, and the far infrared which ranges from 50 to 1000 micrometer. Now we have the visible light. The visible light lies within the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that extends from the infrared to the ultraviolet range. The radiation, this particular radiation, is visible to the human eye. They are the electromagnetic wave with wavelength ranges from 400 micrometer to 750 micrometer and frequencies from 750 terahertz to 400 terahertz. There is the red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and violet. You can see that in the diagram. So, but the visible light is used extensively in terrestrial remote sensing in the production of LiDAR, that's the light detection and ranging, which is the highest quality of topographic data today. It is light pulses which is sent out and received by a certain device that has the capacity to receive light waves. So you can see that most of the remote sensing imaging is done with the help of the visible light. So this is a very important uh, component of the electromagnetic spectrum, and we use it a lot, not just for remote sensing and geoinformatics and surveying, but for also our perception, human perception, to see things, to perceive colors, to perceive beauty, to perceive the things around them. It's very important to mention that this is a very interesting and significant portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, beyond the visible light, we have the ultraviolet radiation. The ultraviolet, or what you may call the UV, lies within the portion of the electromagnetic spectrum that extends from the visible light to the infrared. The UV radiation is present in the sunlight And as a matter of fact, it constitutes about 10% of the total electromagnetic radiation output from the sun. The electromagnetic wave ranges from 10 micrometer to 400 micrometer, and frequencies from 30 picohertz to 750 terahertz. UV, particularly the UVB, causes the body to produce vitamin D, which is essential for life. Humans, we need the UV radiation to maintain adequate vitamin D levels. And this is also supported by different research and regulations by the World Health Organization. Now, I'm going to talk about the X rays and the gamma rays together because we don't often use them in remote sensing and geoinformatics and so on, but they still have found very significant application in medical imaging and also in detecting certain things around us. Now, the X rays are electromagnetic radiation with higher frequencies, higher energy levels, but very low wavelengths. They can pass through most objects, including the human body. Medical X rays are used to generate images of tissues and structures inside the body. Now, their wavelength ranges is low from zero point 0.1 Newton meter to 10 Newton meter to 10 nanometer. Now, why their frequencies ranges are high from 30 echohertz to 30 picohertz. The gamma rays are also important electromagnetic radiation component with much higher frequencies, much higher energy levels, but possessing very short, in fact, is the shortest wavelength among the electromagnetic waves, typically shorter than those of the X-ray. They also are known as the gamma radiation or ionizing radiation and are thought very hazardous to life. Due to their high penetration power, they can damage bone marrow and internal organs. They generally arise from the radioactive decay of atomic nuclei. Their wavelength range is very low, while their frequency ranges are very high. Now you can see that in our discussion, in our lecture, we have been able to look at the electromagnetic spectrum, identifying the different components from radio wave traversing the infrared, the microwave, the visible light, the ultraviolet, and then permeating into the higher frequency waves, which is the X rays and the gamma rays. The interesting about the spectrum is that it also gives us a clue. It tells us which electromagnetic radiation is particularly useful for us in geoinformatics and surveying. And from what we know, we can identify the microwaves, the visible light, the infrared, and the ultraviolet as being very useful for us in geoinformatics and surveying. Most of the remote sensing systems you find today are either active systems which can transmit their own waves or passive systems which can record radiations coming from natural bodies and matter that are everywhere upon the surface of the earth. So our knowledge of electromagnetic radiation is not just about knowing what these radiations can do, but also understanding where these radiations are identifiable, where they can be located on a spectrum, on a natural spectrum. And if we can do that, then we also be able to know how useful they can be to us, how we can exploit them, what are their natural sources, and then how we can measure these natural sources, and also how we can now tell what features on the surface of the earth are by measuring the physical reaction, by measuring what is the responses when these radiations interact with matter on the surface of the earth. So I am very sure that our study have been able to explore some of these things. And in our next study, we are going to be looking at how electromagnetic radiation interacts with matter. So our knowledge of the radiation and where they occupy on the natural spectrum will be able to help us to interpret what matter, what physics, taking the physical properties of the matter and how responses what kind of responses are produced when radiation interacts with matter. So we can take these two, the physical properties of the matter, certain laws that drive this interaction, and what kind of response this interaction produces. We can use these three to be able to tell what exactly a particular remote sensing system is measuring. I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and then I hope to see you next time. Thank you very much.